The rain hit the windshield like bullets, and Zara Anderson knew she was in trouble before she even felt the car lurch to the right. She gripped the steering wheel tighter as the Mercedes sedan pulled hard toward the shoulder of the grocery store parking lot. The unmistakable flapping sound of a flat tire echoed through the cabin, and she let out a frustrated breath as she guided the luxury vehicle to a stop near the back corner of the lot, away from the main entrance. Of course, this would happen today. Of course, it would happen during the only hour she had free this week, squeezed between a board meeting and a conference call with Tokyo investors. Zara pressed her forehead against the steering wheel for just a moment, allowing herself exactly 3 seconds of self-pity before reaching for her phone. The screen lit up with 17 unread messages, 4 missed calls, and a calendar notification reminding her that she had 45 minutes before her next obligation. She scrolled through her contacts, looking for the roadside assistance number she had programmed months ago but never needed to use. The rain intensified, drumming harder against the roof of her car. Through the water-streaked window, she could barely see the grocery store entrance. A few brave souls dashed through the downpour with carts, their shoulders hunched against the weather. She found the number and was about to press call when a knock on her window made her jump. A man stood outside in the rain, already soaked through, his dark hair plastered to his forehead. He wore a simple flannel shirt and jeans, both clearly not expensive and both getting wetter by the second. He gestured for her to lower the window, which she did, but only halfway. Living in the city had taught her to be cautious, even if this parking lot was in one of the better neighborhoods. "Sorry to startle you," he said, his voice deeper than she expected, carrying easily over the sound of the rain. "I saw you pull in with that flat. Do you need help?" Zara studied him for a moment. He looked to be in his early 30s, maybe a year or two older than her own 29 years. His face was honest, with strong features and concerned brown eyes that crinkled at the corners. There was something genuine in his expression that made her hesitate before declining. "I was just about to call roadside assistance," she said, holding up her phone as evidence. "They will take at least an hour in this weather," he replied, glancing at the dark sky. "Probably longer. I have a jack in my truck and a spare tire iron. I can have you back on the road in 15 minutes. He must have seen the uncertainty in her face because he added, "My daughter's inside shopping with her grandmother. I'm William Dixon, by the way. Will." The mention of his daughter somehow made the decision easier. Zara looked at her watch again, calculating. An hour or more waiting in a parking lot versus 15 minutes and trusting a stranger. The board meeting was important, but she could dial in if necessary. The Tokyo call, however, was non-negotiable. "Okay," she said, making the decision quickly the way she made all decisions. "Thank you." "I'm Zara." "Nice to meet you, Zara. Pop your trunk and I will grab your spare." She pulled the trunk release and watched in her side mirror as he walked to the back of her car. There was a confidence in the way he moved, a capable easiness that spoke of someone who had changed plenty of tires before. She felt a strange flutter of something she could not quite identify. Gratitude, probably, or relief. Will returned to her window a moment later, his shirt now completely transparent from the rain. She tried not to notice the way it clung to his shoulders. "Your spare is flat too," he said, apologetic as if it were somehow his fault. "When did you last check it?" "I have never checked it," Zara admitted. "The car is only a year old." He nodded, processing this information without judgment. "Okay, new plan. My truck is right over there. Let me grab my equipment and I will patch your tire. It is just a nail from the look of it, nothing major. Should hold until you can get to a shop for a proper replacement." Before she could respond, he was jogging through the rain toward an older pickup truck parked several rows away. It was a work truck. She could tell even from this distance, with a toolbox in the bed and a dent in the driver's side door. He returned with a small compressor and a tire repair kit, moving with the efficiency of someone who had done this many times before. "You can stay in the car if you want," he called out as he knelt beside her front passenger tire. No point in both of us getting soaked. But Zara found herself opening the door and stepping out into the rain anyway. She was already dressed in her business suit, the charcoal gray fabric quickly darkening with moisture. Her heels sank slightly into the wet asphalt. She was not entirely sure why she got out. Maybe because it felt wrong to sit in comfortable leather seats while someone else worked in the rain on her behalf. Maybe because something about this man made her want to be less of a distant CEO and more of a regular person, even if just for these few minutes. Will glanced up at her with surprise, then something that might have been approval. "You are going to ruin that suit." "It is just a suit," she said, which was not entirely true. It was a $3,000 suit, custom tailored. But standing here in the rain, watching this stranger help her without expecting anything in return, it really did seem like just a suit. He worked quickly, his hands sure and steady as he located the nail, extracted it, and began the repair process. Zara watched, fascinated despite herself. She had built a software company from the ground up, had negotiated deals worth millions of dollars, had given keynote speeches to thousands of people. But she could not change a tire, had never learned, had never needed to learn. "How old is your daughter?" she asked, not sure why she was making conversation except that the silence felt strange. A smile transformed his face, softening the hard lines that rain and focus had created. "Lily just turned 7. She is in there right now probably convincing my mom to buy every box of cookies in the store. She has got this way of asking for things that makes you want to say yes, even when you know you should not." There was so much love in his voice that Zara felt something twist in her chest. "She sounds wonderful." "She is everything," Will said simply, and Zara heard the truth of it in those 2 words. He glanced up at her, and for a moment their eyes met through the rain. "Her mom passed away 3 years ago, cancer, so it has been just the 2 of us, figuring things out as we go." "I am so sorry," Zara said, the corporate politeness of the phrase feeling inadequate for the magnitude of what he had just shared. Will nodded, returning his attention to the tire. "Thank you. It has been hard, but Lily makes everything worth it. Every day she gives me a reason to keep going, to be better, to make sure our little life is full of good things even when money is tight." The compressor hummed to life, filling the tire with air. Zara watched the gauge climb, mesmerized by the simple mechanical process. Rain ran down her face, and she pushed wet hair back from her eyes. "That should do it," Will said, standing up and gathering his tools. "But you will want to get to a tire shop within the next day or 2. This is a temporary fix, not a permanent solution." "How much do I owe you?" Zara asked, already reaching for her purse in the car. Will shook his head. "Nothing. I was not doing anything anyway, just waiting for my mom and Lily to finish shopping. Please, let me pay you for your time, or for your gas at least for running the compressor." "Not necessary," he insisted, and she could see he meant it. "Just help someone else out when you get the chance. That is payment enough." Before Zara could argue further, a voice called out across the parking lot. "Dad." They both turned to see a small girl running toward them, her pink raincoat bright against the gray day. An older woman followed at a more sedate pace, pushing a shopping cart covered with a protective tarp. The girl splashed through puddles with the pure joy that only children seem to possess, laughing as water sprayed up around her boots. "Lily, be careful," Will called out, but he was grinning as he said it. The girl reached them and immediately wrapped her arms around Will's waist, seemingly unconcerned that he was soaking wet. "Grandma bought me cookies and juice boxes and said I could pick out a movie if I was good all week." "Is that so?" Will ruffled her hair affectionately. "Sounds like grandma is a soft touch." "I heard that," the older woman said as she approached. She had the same warm eyes as Will and the same genuine smile. She looked at Zara with open curiosity but no judgment. "I am Helen Dixon. I see my son has been playing hero again." "Mom," Will protested, but there was no heat in it. "I am Zara Anderson," she introduced herself, shaking Helen's offered hand. Your son saved me from a very long wait in a parking lot. I am grateful. Lily was staring at her with the frank, unguarded interest of childhood. You are really pretty, she announced. Like a princess. Are you a princess? Lily, Will said, his voice carrying a note of embarrassed warning. But Zara found herself smiling, a real smile that felt different from her usual corporate expressions. Thank you, but no, I am not a princess. I just work a lot in offices. That sounds boring, Lily said matter-of-factly. Do you have kids? I do not, Zara admitted. Do you want kids? Lily, that is enough questions, Will intervened, placing a hand on his daughter's shoulder. We should let this nice lady get on with her day. But Zara surprised herself by saying, I used to think I did not have time for kids. Now I am not so sure what I think. The honesty of the statement hung in the rain, soaked air between them. Will looked at her with an expression she could not quite read, something searching and thoughtful. Well, we should let you go, Helen said kindly, clearly sensing something in the moment that needed protecting. It was lovely to meet you, Zara. They said their goodbyes, and Zara watched as the three of them loaded groceries into the old pickup truck. Will lifted Lily into the back seat, taking care to make sure she was buckled in properly, and the simple act of parental care made something ache in Zara's chest. She realized she was still standing in the rain, watching a family of strangers, and forced herself to get back into her car. The engine started smoothly, and the tire held as she carefully drove out of the parking lot. She made it to her office with 10 minutes to spare before the Tokyo call, but for the first time in years, her mind was not entirely on work. Instead, she kept thinking about brown eyes in the rain, capable hands fixing her tire, and a little girl asking if she wanted kids. 3 days passed before Zara returned to that grocery store. She told herself it was because it was the closest one to her office, which was technically true, but not the whole truth. She told herself she needed to thank Will properly, maybe give him a gift card or something to compensate him for his help. But the truth was simpler and more complicated than that. She wanted to see him again. The parking lot was dry this time, the sky a brilliant blue that seemed impossible after the storm. Zara parked near where she had gotten the flat tire, feeling foolish. The chances of him being here at the exact same time were minimal. He probably had a job, responsibilities, a whole life that had nothing to do with this grocery store at 3 in the afternoon on a Thursday. She was walking toward the entrance, already mentally composing a grocery list she did not actually need, when she heard a familiar voice. Zara. She turned to find Will walking toward her from the parking lot, wearing work clothes covered in sawdust. His face registered genuine surprise and something else, something that might have been pleasure. Will, she said, his name feeling natural on her tongue. Hi yourself. He stopped a respectful distance away, brushing sawdust from his jeans self-consciously. I am a mess. Just came from a job site. I am a carpenter, he added, as if that explained the sawdust and the work boots and the scent of fresh-cut wood that surrounded him. A carpenter, Zara repeated, filing this information away. That is why you were so good with your hands, with the tire, I mean. Was she blushing? She could not remember the last time she blushed. If Will noticed her discomfort, he was kind enough not to mention it. How has the tire been holding up? Did you get to a shop? I did. The next day, they were very impressed with your patch job, actually. Said it was done perfectly. She paused, then dove in before she could second-guess herself. I have been hoping I would run into you. I wanted to thank you properly. You already thanked me. I wanted to do more than thank you. I wanted to take you to dinner. The words were out before she could stop them, bold and untakebackable. To show my appreciation, for helping me. Will looked surprised, then pleased, then conflicted, all in the span of a few seconds. That is really nice of you, but you do not need to do that. I was happy to help. I know I do not need to. I want to. Zara forced herself to hold his gaze, to not retreat into corporate professionalism. Unless you are not interested, which I would completely understand. It is not that I am not interested, Will said carefully. It is just, I have Lily, and I do not really date much. Or at all, actually, not since Sarah died. And when I do think about getting back out there, I always figure I should start with someone more in my bracket, you know? Someone who is not driving a Mercedes and wearing designer clothes. Zara felt the words land like a small blow, even though she understood what he meant. You think we are too different. I think you are successful and beautiful and probably way out of my league, Will said honestly. I think you could have dinner with anyone in this city, and I am a guy who lives in a small apartment with my 7-year-old and sometimes has to choose between fixing my truck and buying new shoes for my kid. Lily always wins, for the record, but that is my life. That is my reality. And you think I could not understand that reality? Can you? The question hung between them, a challenge and an invitation all at once. Zara thought about her penthouse apartment, her walk-in closet full of expensive clothes, her refrigerator that held mostly takeout containers and bottled water. She thought about board meetings and profit margins and the distance she kept between herself and almost everyone in her life. Maybe not, she admitted, but I would like to try. I would like to have dinner with you and talk and get to know you better. Not because I am trying to ease my conscience about the tire, and not because I am some rich person collecting experiences with regular people. But because standing in that parking lot in the rain talking to you was the most real I have felt in months. Maybe years. Will studied her face, and Zara forced herself not to look away, to let him see whatever he needed to see. Finally, he smiled, a slow warming that lit up his entire face. Okay, he said. Dinner, but somewhere normal, not fancy, and I need to find a babysitter for Lily, which might take a few days. Take all the time you need, Zara said, relief and excitement flooding through her in equal measure. I will give you my number. They exchanged phones, fingers brushing as they handed the devices back, and Zara felt that small contact all the way to her toes. She was definitely in trouble here, but for once, she did not mind. I should go, Will said, gesturing toward the store. I am supposed to be grabbing milk and eggs before I pick up Lily from school. And I should actually do some grocery shopping since I am here, Zara said. They parted ways with promises to text soon, and Zara wandered through the grocery store in a daze, putting random items in her cart without really seeing them. When she got home and unpacked, she discovered she had bought 3 boxes of cookies, juice boxes, and ingredients for what might have been spaghetti. All things a 7-year-old might like. She was definitely in trouble. Will texted her that night. Just a simple message that said, My mom agreed to watch Lily on Saturday. Are you free? Zara, who had a charity gala scheduled for Saturday that she had been planning to attend for months, texted back immediately, I am free. What time? They agreed on 7, and Will suggested a restaurant. Zara had never heard of a family-owned Italian place in a neighborhood she rarely visited. She spent an embarrassing amount of time deciding what to wear, finally settling on jeans and a soft sweater, clothes that felt foreign after years of power suits and cocktail dresses. She left her hair down and kept her makeup simple, and when she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman looking back. She looked younger, softer, more like the girl she had been before ambition and corporate ladders had reshaped her into someone harder. The restaurant was small and warm, with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles and the kind of comfortable atmosphere that spoke of family recipes and regular customers. Will was already there when she arrived, standing up from a corner booth as she entered. He wore khakis and a button-down shirt, his hair still damp from a recent shower, and Zara thought she had never seen anyone look better. You found it okay? He asked as she slid into the booth across from him. GPS is a wonderful thing, she said, then winced at how corporate she sounded. Sorry. Yes, I found it fine. This place is lovely. Lily and I come here for special occasions, Will said. They make the best lasagna in the city and they always give her extra breadsticks. They have known me since I was a kid, actually. My dad used to bring me here. Used to. He passed away when I was in high school. Heart attack. It was sudden. Will said it matter-of-factly, but Zara heard the old grief underneath. It has just been Mom and me for a long time, and then Sarah came along, and then Lily, and now it is the four of us. The three of us, I mean. Still getting used to that number. A waitress appeared, saving Zara from having to respond. They ordered wine and entrees, and then they were alone again, looking at each other across the candle light. "Tell me about your work," Will said. "I realized I do not even know what you do, other than drive a nice car and wear expensive suits." Zara laughed, surprised by his directness. "I am a CEO of a software company. We develop project management tools for mid-sized businesses. I started it 8 years ago with 2 partners from business school. We have grown pretty rapidly." "That is impressive," Will said, and he sounded like he meant it. "Do you like it?" It was such a simple question, but Zara found herself struggling to answer. "I used to love it. Building something from nothing, watching it grow, solving problems. But lately, it feels more like maintenance than creation, more about keeping investors happy and managing personnel issues than actually innovating." She paused, surprised by her own honesty. "I have not said that out loud before." "Maybe you need to say things out loud more often," Will suggested gently. "Maybe I do not have anyone to say them to," Zara countered. "What about friends? Family? My parents retired to Florida 3 years ago. We talk once a week, very surface level. I have work acquaintances, not really friends. I had friends in business school, but we have all gotten busy, scattered across the country. I have dinner meetings and networking events, but I cannot remember the last time I just hung out with someone for fun." Saying it out loud made it sound worse than it had felt in her head. Will was watching her with those steady brown eyes, not judging, just listening. "That sounds lonely," he said. "It is," Zara admitted. "I did not realize how lonely until I was standing in a parking lot in the rain, and a stranger was kinder to me than most people I see every day." The wine arrived, giving them both a moment to process this exchange. When the waitress left, Will raised his glass. "To parking lot meetings and good tire patches," he said. Zara clinked her glass against his, smiling. "To parking lot meetings." They both drank, and then Will set his glass down and leaned forward slightly. "My turn for honesty. I almost canceled tonight. 3 times. I kept thinking about all the reasons this was a bad idea. The money difference, the lifestyle difference, the fact that I come as a package deal with a 7-year-old. The fact that I have not been on a date in over 3 years, and I have forgotten how to do this." "You seem to be doing fine so far," Zara said softly. "That is because you make it easy," Will said. "You are not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I do not know. Someone more polished, I guess, more distant. You seemed so put together in that parking lot, even soaking wet. I figured dinner would be awkward, that we would have nothing to talk about, that you would realize this was a mistake before the appetizers arrived. And now I am really glad I did not cancel," Will said, his smile devastating in its sincerity. The food arrived, and the conversation flowed more easily after that. Will told her about his carpentry business, how he had started doing small repair jobs on weekends while working construction, how it had slowly grown into something sustainable enough to go full-time. He talked about the satisfaction of working with wood, of building things with his hands, of seeing a project through from start to finish. "It is not lucrative," he admitted, "and there are slow months where I worry about making rent. But I am my own boss. I set my own hours, and I can be there when Lily gets home from school. That is worth more than a bigger paycheck." Zara found herself envious of that clarity, that sense of priorities aligned with choices. "Tell me more about Lily. What is she like?" Will's entire demeanor changed when he talked about his daughter. He lit up from the inside, and Zara could see the love radiating from him like heat. He told her about Lily's love of books, her terrible jokes, her tendency to sing at the top of her lungs while doing homework. He told her about the grief counseling they had done together after Sarah died, about the hard days and the better days, about slowly building a new normal. "She asked about you," he said, slightly embarrassed. After we ran into you in the parking lot, she wanted to know if you were my girlfriend. Zara's heart skipped. What did you tell her? I told her you were someone I helped and that you were very nice. She said I should marry you because you looked like a princess, and she has always wanted to be a princess. Will laughed, shaking his head. 7-year-old logic. Everyone is either going to be best friends or getting married. There is no in between. She sounds wonderful, Zara said, meaning it. She is. She is also exhausting and stubborn and way too smart for her own good, but she is my whole world. Will looked at Zara seriously. I need you to understand that. Lily comes first, always. If we do this, if we keep seeing each other, you need to know that she is the priority. Her happiness, her stability, her well-being, everything else is secondary. I would not want it any other way, Zara said firmly. A man who does not put his child first is not a man worth knowing. Something shifted in Will's expression, a wall coming down, a door opening. They finished their meal talking about everything and nothing, discovering shared tastes in movies and wildly different opinions on music. Zara learned that Will could not cook to save his life, that he was terrible at sports but loved watching baseball, that he had a younger sister living in Seattle whom he missed terribly. Will learned that Zara had wanted to be a veterinarian as a child, that she stress baked at 2 a.m, that she had never been in love, not really, not the way people described it in books and movies. Never, Will asked, surprised. I have had relationships, Zara clarified. But they were always convenient arrangements, 2 busy people making time for each other when schedules aligned. They ended when someone got a job in another city or when the demands of work made it more hassle than it was worth. I have never felt like I would rearrange my whole life for someone. Never felt like someone was essential. Do you want that? Will asked. The essential kind of love, Zara thought about it, really thought about it. I think I do. I think I have spent so long building my career that I forgot to build anything else. And now I have this successful company and this nice apartment and enough money to do whatever I want, but I come home to an empty space every night. I order takeout for one. I watch television alone. I am 29 years old and I feel like I have missed something important. You have not missed it, Will said softly. You are just finding it now. The waitress brought the check, and they had a brief, laughing argument over who would pay. Zara won by pointing out that she had invited him to dinner first, and Will conceded with the condition that he would pay next time. Next time? Zara asked, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. If you want there to be a next time, Will said, suddenly uncertain. Do you? Yes, Zara said without hesitation. I really do. They walked out to the parking lot together, the night air cool and clear. Will had parked near her, and they stood between their vehicles, neither quite ready to say goodbye. The streetlight cast long shadows, and somewhere nearby a dog was barking. It was such an ordinary moment, but Zara wanted to hold on to it, to preserve it somehow. I had a really good time tonight, Will said. Better than good. This was great. It was, Zara agreed. Thank you for saying yes to dinner. Thank you for being brave enough to ask. They stood there for another moment, the air between them charged with possibility. Then Will reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind Zara's ear, his fingers gentle against her skin. It was such a small gesture, but it felt enormous, weighted with intention and promise. I am going to kiss you now, he said, giving her time to object, to step back. Zara did not step back. Okay. His lips were soft against hers, the kiss sweet and careful, a question and an answer all at once. Zara felt it all the way to her toes, felt the world tilt and resettle into a new configuration. When they pulled apart, they were both smiling. Wow, Zara said softly. Yeah, Will agreed. Wow. They said goodnight with promises to text, to make plans to see each other soon. Zara drove home in a daze, her lips still tingling, her heart still racing. She felt like a teenager, giddy and nervous and full of possibility. When she got home to her empty penthouse, it did not feel quite as empty as it usually did. She had hope now, a future that might include more than just board meetings and quarterly reports, Over the next few weeks, Zara and Will fell into a pattern. They texted throughout the day, nothing profound, just small glimpses into their lives. Will would send her pictures of his current projects, beautiful furniture taking shape under his skilled hands. Zara would send him photos of her office view, the city spread out below her window. They talked on the phone at night after Lily went to bed, conversations that stretched for hours, covering everything from childhood memories to future dreams. They went on more dates, always to normal places, never the fancy restaurants Zara was used to. They got burgers at a diner where the waitress knew Will's order by heart. They went to a minor league baseball game and ate hot dogs and cheered for a team Zara had never heard of. They walked through a farmer's market on Sunday morning, and Will introduced her to fresh produce and homemade bread, and the simple pleasure of browsing with nowhere else to be. Zara found herself changing in small ways. She started leaving work at reasonable hours, instead of staying until 9 or 10 at night. She delegated more, trusting her team to handle things she had always micromanaged before. She bought jeans and casual clothes, building a wardrobe that did not revolve around boardrooms and investor meetings. Her assistant noticed the change and commented that Zara seemed happier, lighter somehow. "I am," Zara admitted. "I think I might be falling in love." Saying it out loud made it real and a little bit terrifying. She had only known Will for a month, but somehow it felt like longer, like he had always been there, waiting for her to find him in that parking lot. The conversation about meeting Lily happened naturally, over the phone late one night 3 weeks after their first date. "She keeps asking about you," Will said, his voice soft in the darkness. "She saw your name on my phone the other day and wanted to know why I was smiling. I told her you were someone special." "What did she say?" "She wants to meet you. She has been asking if you can come to dinner, if you like mac and cheese because that is her specialty, if you would want to see her room." Will paused. "No pressure, obviously. I know meeting the kid is a big step. But if you are ready, if you want to, I think it would mean a lot to her. And to me." Zara felt nerves and excitement war in her stomach. "I want to meet her. I am nervous, but I want to." "She is going to love you," Will said with confidence. How could she not? They made plans for dinner at Will's apartment the following Saturday. Zara spent the week in a state of low-level panic, asking everyone she encountered for advice on meeting a 7-year-old. Her assistant suggested bringing a gift, but nothing too extravagant. The woman who ran the coffee shop downstairs said to be herself and ask lots of questions because kids love to talk about themselves. Her lawyer called for an unrelated contract issue, told her to relax because children were excellent judges of character and would know if she was being fake. Armed with this advice and a carefully selected children's book about a brave princess who rescued herself, Zara drove to Will's apartment on Saturday evening. He lived in a modest complex on the edge of town, the kind of place with a shared courtyard and stairs on the outside of the building. She found his door easily, took a deep breath and knocked. Will answered immediately as if he had been waiting right by the door. He looked nervous too, which somehow made Zara feel better. "Hi," he said, ushering her inside. "Come in." Lily is in her room putting on her special meeting people dress. She has changed outfits 4 times. The apartment was small but clean, filled with the evidence of life with a child. There were drawings on the refrigerator, books stacked on every surface, a pair of small sneakers by the door. The furniture was mismatched but cozy, clearly chosen for comfort rather than style. It felt like a home, lived in and loved, so different from Zara's pristine penthouse. Before Zara could say anything, a door opened and Lily emerged wearing a pink dress with tulle that stuck out at all angles. Her hair had been carefully braided, though pieces were already escaping. She looked at Zara with huge eyes, suddenly shy despite all her questions. "Hi, Lily," Zara said, crouching down to be at eye level. "It is so nice to meet you officially. Your dad has told me so much about you." "He talks about you too," Lily said, her voice small but brave. "He smiles at his phone a lot now," Lily, Will said, laughing. What happened to the speech you practiced about saying hello and asking our guest how she is? I forgot, Lily admitted. Then, rallying, she added, How are you? I am wonderful, Zara said warmly. Especially now that I get to meet you, I brought you something. She held out the book, and Lily took it carefully, examining the cover with interest. A princess, she breathed. Does the prince save her? Actually, she saves herself, Zara said. And then she helps the prince out of some trouble. They save each other. Lily looked delighted. Can we read it after dinner? I would love that, Zara said, and she meant it. Dinner was mac and cheese, as promised, with hot dogs cut up in it. Lily explained very seriously that this was her famous recipe, taught to her by her dad, and that it was important to mix it really well so that the cheese got on everything. Zara ate it like it was five-star cuisine and saw Will watching her with something like wonder. They talked through dinner, Lily asking questions with the directness of childhood. She wanted to know about Zara's job, her apartment, whether she had any pets, what her favorite color was, if she knew how to do a cartwheel. Zara answered everything honestly, finding herself relaxing under Lily's open curiosity. Do you like my dad? Lily asked suddenly, pausing with her fork halfway to her mouth. Lily, we talked about this, Will interjected. Some questions are private, but I want to know, Lily insisted. Because I like her and I want to know if she likes you back. Zara looked at Will, then back at Lily. I like your dad very much, she said honestly. He is one of the kindest, most wonderful people I have ever met. Lily seemed satisfied with this answer. Good, he needs someone to like him. Grandma says he works too much and does not have enough fun. Grandma talks too much, Will muttered, but he was smiling. After dinner, they all squeezed onto the couch together, Lily in the middle, and Zara read the princess book with different voices for each character. Lily was enthralled, leaning against Zara's side like it was the most natural thing in the world. When the story was over, Lily immediately asked for another book, and then another, until Will finally called bedtime. But I am not tired, Lily protested, even as she yawned. Bed, Will said firmly but kindly. Say good night to Zara. Lily surprised them both by throwing her arms around Zara's neck in a fierce hug. You are nice, she whispered. Can you come back? I would like that very much, Zara whispered back, her throat suddenly tight. Will carried Lily to her room for the bedtime routine, and Zara stood in the small living room, feeling like something fundamental had just shifted inside her. She heard Will reading in the other room, heard Lily's sleepy questions and his patient answers, and felt the domesticity of it all wrap around her like a blanket. When Will emerged 20 minutes later, he found Zara standing by the window, looking out at the courtyard below. She is asleep, he said softly. Usually takes forever, but I think she wore herself out being charming for you. She was perfect, Zara said, turning to face him. Will, she is absolutely perfect. He crossed the room to her, taking her hands in his. So are you. The way you were with her tonight, the way you listened and engaged and made her feel special. I was watching you, and I kept thinking how natural it looked, how right. It felt right, Zara admitted. I was nervous, but the moment I met her, it all just clicked. She is amazing, Will. You have done such a good job with her. We did a good job, Will corrected. Sarah and I, she is still Lily's mom, even though she is gone. I want you to know that, to be okay with that. There are pictures of Sarah all over Lily's room. We talk about her every day. She is part of our story. I would not want it any other way, Zara said firmly. Sarah will always be Lily's mother. I am not trying to replace her or erase her. I just want to be part of your lives if you will let me. Will pulled her closer, resting his forehead against hers. I am falling in love with you, Zara. I tried not to. I tried to keep my distance, to be smart about this, but I cannot help it. You have become essential. Essential. The word Zara had used weeks ago to describe the kind of love she had never felt. And now here it was, standing in a small apartment that smelled like mac and cheese, holding the hand of a man who built furniture and raised his daughter and fixed tires in parking lots for strangers. I am falling in love with you too, Zara said. Both of you. They kissed, soft and sweet, and Zara felt the last walls around her heart crumble. She had spent years building a fortress, protecting herself with ambition and distance. But Will and Lily had walked right through her defenses without even trying, and she had never been more grateful for anything in her life. The weeks that followed were a blend of new routines and growing connections. Zara started spending more time at Will's apartment, bringing groceries and cooking meals with him while Lily did homework at the kitchen table. She attended Lily's school events, sitting in tiny chairs in classrooms filled with children's artwork. She met Helen properly, over coffee while Lily was at school, and found herself welcomed warmly into the fold of this small family. Helen was direct in the way that mothers often are. "I can see why Will likes you," she said over her coffee. "You are good for him. He has been alone for too long, throwing himself into work and parenting and forgetting that he deserves happiness too." "He makes me happy too," Zara said. "I did not realize how much of my life was just going through the motions until I met him." "Are you sure about this?" Helen asked. "About taking on a man with a child. It is not easy being a step-parent. There will be hard days. There will be times when Lily acts out or pushes boundaries or tells you that you are not her mom. Can you handle that?" Zara thought about it seriously. "I do not know," she admitted. "I have never done this before, but I know I want to try. I know that when I think about my future now, I cannot imagine it without Will and Lily in it." Helen studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Good, that is all I needed to hear." Work became easier to balance as Zara learned to set boundaries she had never set before. She stopped answering emails after 8 at night. She started delegating more to her management team, trusting them to handle issues without her constant input. Her business partners noticed the change and pulled her aside after a board meeting. "You seem different," Marcus, her chief technology officer, said. "Happier. What has changed?" "I met someone," Zara said simply. "And I realized I have been making work my whole life when it should just be part of my life." Marcus and Jennifer, her chief operating officer, exchanged glances. "Is this going to affect your commitment to the company?" Jennifer asked carefully. "My commitment to the company has never wavered," Zara said firmly. "But my commitment to having a life outside this office has grown. I think that will make me a better CEO, not a worse one." She meant it. The breathing room she had created in her schedule allowed her to come to work refreshed, with new perspectives. She solved problems more creatively, approached conflicts with more patience. Her team responded positively, and company morale improved across the board. 3 months into their relationship, Will and Zara had their first real conflict. It started small, with Will canceling a dinner date because a big carpentry job had run late. Zara said she understood, but when it happened again the following week, and then a third time, frustration began to build. They finally talked about it on the phone after Will had canceled yet another plan. "I am sorry," he said, and he sounded genuinely apologetic. "This project is important and the client needs it finished by next week. I have been working late every night." "I understand that," Zara said, trying to keep her voice level. "But we have not seen each other outside of your apartment in 2 weeks. Every time we make plans, work gets in the way." "That is rich coming from you," Will said, and there was an edge to his voice now. "You are the one who spent our first month together canceling plans for board meetings and investor calls." That was different. "I was adjusting, trying to figure out how to balance everything. And I am trying to make a living," Will said. "I am sorry I do not have a team of people to delegate to. I am sorry I cannot just leave work whenever I want. But this is my reality, Zara. I am a one-man operation trying to support my daughter on carpentry jobs. Sometimes that means working late." Zara felt the frustration morph into guilt. He was right. She had been thinking about this from her perspective, from her needs, without fully considering the pressure he was under. "You are right," she said quietly. "I am sorry, I just miss you." The edge left his voice immediately. "I miss you too, so much. This job will be done in a few days, and then I will have more time. Can you be patient with me? Of course, Zara said. Will, I am sorry for being selfish. I know you are doing your best. They talked through it, finding understanding and compromise. But the conversation planted a seed in Zara's mind, something she found herself thinking about over the next few days. Will was skilled at what he did, talented and reliable, but he was limited by being a solo operation. He turned down jobs because he did not have help. He worked himself to exhaustion trying to meet deadlines. He deserved better. An idea began to form, and Zara spent several days researching, making calls, running numbers. She put together a proposal, the same way she would for a business investment, complete with projections and risk analysis. Then she asked Will to come over to her apartment for dinner, just the two of them while Helen watched Lily. Will arrived looking tired but happy, kissing her soundly before following her into the kitchen. Zara had ordered from his favorite Italian place, and they ate while talking about their days. When dinner was finished and they were settled on her couch with wine, Zara pulled out the folder she had prepared. I want to talk to you about something, she said, and I need you to hear me out before you respond. Will looked curious and slightly concerned. Okay. You are incredibly talented at what you do, Zara began. Your work is beautiful, your clients love you, and you have more demand than you can handle. But you are limited by your capacity. You are one person doing everything, and it is not sustainable. I know, Will said. I have been thinking about hiring help, but I cannot afford to take someone on full-time yet. What if you could? Zara opened the folder and handed him the first page. I have been thinking about this, about what it would take to expand your business. To hire help, to take on bigger projects, to actually grow. Will looked at the numbers, his expression unreadable. This is a business plan. It is for your business. I had a friend who is a consultant look at your financials, anonymously, of course, and she thinks you could easily support 2 employees within 6 months if you had the startup capital for equipment and materials. Zara took a breath. I want to invest in your business, Will. I want to be your silent partner. We'll set the papers down carefully. Zara, I cannot take your money. It is not taking, it is investing. This is not charity. This is a sound business decision with good projected returns. You would pay me back with interest. It would be a formal agreement, all legal and proper. Why? Will asked. Why would you do this? Because I believe in you, Zara said simply. Because I see how hard you work, how stressed you are trying to do everything yourself. Because you deserve the chance to build something bigger, to have security for Lily's future. And selfishly, because I want you to have more time to not be working yourself to death. Will stood up, running his hands through his hair in agitation. Do you know how this looks? Successful woman swoops in to save the struggling guy. What does that make me, Zara? Your project? Your charity case? That is not fair, Zara said, feeling hurt rise in her chest. I am offering a business investment, not a handout. If you do not want to do it, fine. But do not make this about pride. Do not turn down something that could help you and Lily just because your ego cannot handle a woman giving you a leg up. The words came out harsher than she intended, and they hung in the air between them, sharp and cutting. Will stared at her, and Zara saw hurt and anger warring in his expression. My ego, he repeated. You think this is about my ego? Isn't it? You just said you cannot take my money. Why? Because I am a woman, because I am successful. Would you feel differently if a male investor offered you the same deal? Will opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. He sat back down heavily on the couch. I do not know, he admitted. Maybe this is all new territory for me, Zara. I have always taken care of myself, taken care of Lily. I have never relied on anyone else, not since Sarah died. And now you are offering me this huge thing, and part of me wants to say yes so badly, but another part is terrified. Terrified of what? Zara asked, her voice softer now. Of what it means. Of what happens if we do this and then we do not work out. Of mixing business with personal. Of you having power over me. He looked at her directly. And yes, maybe some of it is pride. Maybe I wanted to be the one who could take care of you, not the other way around. Zara moved closer to him on the couch, taking his hand. You do take care of me. You make me dinner and make me laugh and make me feel like I matter. You have shown me what it means to have a real life, not just a career. That is worth more than any investment. But the money is not equal, Will said. It will never be equal. You will always have more, always be able to contribute more financially. How do I not feel like less than you? By recognizing that worth is not measured in dollars, Zara said firmly. You are an amazing father, a skilled craftsman, a good man. You have built a life for Lily on your own, through grief and struggle. You are not less than me, Will. We are just different with different strengths and resources. Will was quiet for a long time, staring at their joined hands. Finally, he said, Can I think about it? The investment. Can I look over your proposal, maybe talk to a lawyer or accountant, make sure I understand what I would be agreeing to? Of course, Zara said immediately. Take all the time you need. I do not want to pressure you. I just wanted you to know the offer is there. They did not talk about business for the rest of the night. Instead, they moved to safer topics, rebuilding the closeness that the conversation had strained. When Will left, he kissed her goodnight with an intensity that felt like an apology and a promise all at once. The next few days were tense, both of them dancing around the elephant in the room. They texted and talked on the phone, but there was a carefulness to their interactions that had not been there before. Zara forced herself to be patient, to give Will the space he needed to make his decision. A week later, Will called and asked if they could meet. Zara's heart was pounding as she agreed to come to his apartment after Lily was asleep. When she arrived, she found Will at his kitchen table with the proposal in front of him, pages covered with notes and calculations. I talked to an accountant, he said, as she sat down across from him. And I talked to my mom, and I spent way too much time thinking about this. He looked up at her, his expression serious but not angry. I want to accept your investment, but I have conditions. Relief flooded through Zara, but she kept her voice calm. Okay, what conditions? First, this is a business arrangement. We draw up proper contracts with repayment terms and interest rates and everything legal. No special treatment because we are together. Agreed, Zara said. Second, I maintain full control of the business operations. You are a silent partner, like you said, but I need to know that you trust me to run things my way. I do trust you. Agreed. Third, if we break up, God forbid, the business arrangement continues as written, no pulling funding or demanding early repayment or anything vindictive. We keep it professional no matter what happens with us personally. Zara nodded. That makes sense. Agreed. Will took a deep breath. And fourth, you have to let me do something for you in return. I do not know what yet, but this cannot be one-sided. I need to contribute something, to feel like I am giving as much as I am getting. You give me more than you realize every single day, Zara said softly, but if you need a concrete gesture, we will figure something out. Agreed. They shook hands across the table, formal and a bit ridiculous, and then they were both laughing, the tension breaking like a popped balloon. We are really doing this, Will said, sounding amazed. We are really doing this, Zara confirmed. You are going to build an empire, Will Dixon. I have no doubt. They spent the next hour going through the details, making notes on changes to the proposal, discussing timelines and next steps. Zara felt energized in a way she had not felt about business in years. This was creation again, building something new, but this time it was personal in the best possible way. When they finally set the papers aside, Will pulled Zara into his lap, holding her close. Thank you, he whispered against her hair, for believing in me. For pushing me even when I was being stubborn, for seeing potential I could not see myself. Thank you for trusting me, Zara whispered back, for letting me be part of this. They sealed the deal with a kiss, and Zara felt the rightness of it settle into her bones. They were building something together now, a future that included both of them. The business expansion happened quickly once they made the decision. Zara's lawyers drew up the contracts, everything proper and official. Will hired 2 employees, both young guys eager to learn the carpentry trade. He rented a small workshop space, invested in better equipment, and started taking on the bigger jobs he had always turned down before. Zara watched him flourish in a way that made her heart swell. He was still working hard, but it was different now. He had help. He had structure. He came home to Lily at reasonable hours instead of working until midnight. He smiled more, stressed less, and the shadows under his eyes faded. 5 months after they met, Zara gave Will a key to her apartment. 6 months in, Will asked if Zara wanted to go on a weekend trip with him and Lily. They went to a cabin in the mountains, just the 3 of them, and spent the days hiking and the evenings playing board games by the fire. Lily fell asleep between them on the couch on their last night, and Will looked at Zara over his daughter's head with so much love that Zara felt tears prick her eyes. 7 months in, Helen invited Zara to Sunday dinner, a weekly tradition with Will's family. Zara brought wine and dessert and felt herself welcomed completely into the fold. Helen hugged her at the end of the night and whispered, "I am so glad Will found you." 8 months in, Zara met Will's sister via video call, and they hit it off immediately. 9 months in, Zara introduced Will to her parents during their visit from Florida. Her mother pulled her aside before they left and said, "That is a good man you have got there. Do not let him go." 10 months in, they had another fight, this time about Lily. Zara had suggested enrolling Lily in a private school that had an excellent reputation, and Will had shut the idea down immediately. They argued about it for days, and eventually Will explained that he wanted Lily to stay in public school, to stay connected to their neighborhood and their community, to not be separated from her friends just because they now had more money. Zara realized she had overstepped and apologized, and they worked through it. 11 months in, Will's business landed its biggest contract yet, building custom furniture for a new hotel downtown. He was ecstatic and terrified in equal measure, and Zara helped him create a project plan to manage the scope. They worked side by side at her dining room table, and Zara thought about how strange and wonderful it was that her life now included spreadsheets about wood suppliers and lumber costs. 1 year after they met, Will planned a surprise for Zara. He told her to take the day off work and wear something comfortable. She showed up at his apartment to find Lily dressed in her favorite purple dress and Will in khakis and a button-down shirt. "Where are we going?" Zara asked, laughing at their secretive expressions. "You will see," Lily said, bouncing with excitement. They drove out of the city, Lily chattering the entire way while refusing to give any hints. Finally, they pulled up to a building Zara recognized as a pottery studio. She had mentioned once, months ago, that she had always wanted to try pottery but had never made time for it. "You remembered," she said softly. "I remember everything you tell me," Will said, kissing her cheek. "We signed up for a family class. The 3 of us are going to make very ugly bowls." The class was messy and hilarious and perfect. Lily got clay everywhere, Zara's bowl collapsed twice, and Will's creation looked vaguely like a lopsided cup. They laughed until their sides hurt, and the instructor took a photo of them all covered in clay, grinning at the camera. Zara would later frame that photo and put it on her desk at work. After the class, they went to lunch at a diner, still with traces of clay under their fingernails. Then Will drove them to a park with a lake, and they walked along the water while Lily ran ahead, chasing ducks and collecting interesting rocks. "Thank you for today," Zara said, holding Will's hand as they walked. "This was perfect." "I wanted to celebrate," Will said, "our anniversary. 1 year since you got a flat tire in a parking lot, and I took a chance on talking to a beautiful woman who looked stressed and worried." "Best flat tire of my life," Zara said, smiling. "Lily and I have something else for you," Will said, and there was a nervousness to his voice now that made Zara's heart skip. He called out to Lily, who came running back with a small wrapped box. "Open it," Lily urged, pressing the box into Zara's hands. Zara unwrapped it carefully, her hands starting to shake when she saw the jewelry box. Inside was a simple silver necklace with a pendant shaped like a heart. Engraved on the heart were 3 words, Will, Lily, Zara. It is our names, Lily explained unnecessarily. All together. Because that is what we want, Will said, his voice steady but his eyes showing his nerves. To be together, the three of us, officially. Zara looked up from the necklace, her vision blurring with tears. Will. He took the box from her hands and pulled out the necklace, moving behind her to fasten it around her neck. Then he came back around to face her, taking both her hands in his. I love you, Zara. I love your strength and your kindness and the way you dive into things completely once you commit. I love how you are with Lily, how you have never tried to replace Sarah, but have carved out your own space in our lives. I love waking up to your texts and falling asleep to your voice on the phone. I love the way you have made me believe that I deserve happiness, that Lily and I deserve someone as wonderful as you in our corner. I love you too, Zara said, tears streaming down her face now. So much. I am asking you to marry us, Will continued. Both of us. To join our family officially, to be Lily's stepmom and my wife. To build a life together that includes both of our worlds. I am not asking you to give anything up, but I am asking you to share everything with us. Say yes, Lily urged, bouncing on her toes. Please say yes. I want you to be my mom. My other mom, my now mom. Zara laughed through her tears, looking at this little girl who had stolen her heart as completely as her father had. Yes, she said. Yes, of course, yes. Will pulled a ring from his pocket, something simple and beautiful, and slid it onto her finger. Then Lily was hugging them both, and they were all crying and laughing, and people in the park were stopping to watch and smile at this family coming together. The engagement was a whirlwind. Zara called her parents immediately, and they flew in the following week to celebrate. Helen cried happy tears and started planning the wedding before anyone asked her to. Will's sister sent a gift basket so large it barely fit in Will's apartment. Zara's business partners took her to lunch and toasted her happiness. Jennifer admitted she had been hoping for this outcome since Zara had first mentioned Will months ago. They decided on a short engagement, not wanting to wait now that they had made the decision. 3 months felt right, enough time to plan something meaningful, but not so long that they were stuck in extended anticipation. They chose a small venue, a garden that reminded Zara of the park where Will had proposed. They kept the guest list intimate, just family and close friends. Lily was deeply involved in every decision. She helped Zara pick out her dress, insisting that it needed to be princess-worthy. She designed the invitations, or at least contributed drawings that the professional designer somehow incorporated beautifully. She practiced walking down the aisle as the flower girl, taking her responsibilities very seriously. 2 weeks before the wedding, Zara moved most of her things into Will's apartment. They had decided to look for a bigger place together after the wedding, but for now, they squeezed Zara's belongings into the small space. It was cramped and chaotic and absolutely perfect. Zara woke up to Lily climbing into bed between them in the mornings. She helped with homework at the kitchen table. She learned Will's terrible cooking secrets and improved them. She became part of the daily rhythm of their lives, and it felt like coming home. The night before the wedding, Zara stayed at her mostly empty penthouse apartment, tradition dictating that she and Will spend the night apart. Helen and Lily stayed with her, making it a girls' night complete with movies and popcorn. After Lily fell asleep on the couch, Helen made tea and sat with Zara in the kitchen. "You are going to be a wonderful addition to our family," Helen said warmly. "I have watched you with my son and granddaughter, and I see how much you love them, how much they love you." "I am nervous," Zara admitted. "Not about marrying Will, I have never been more sure of anything, but about being a step-parent, about being what Lily needs." "Can I tell you a secret?" Helen leaned forward. "Every parent is nervous. Every parent feels like they are not enough, like they are going to mess up. But you show up anyway, you try your best, you love them fiercely, that is all any of us can do." "What if I make mistakes?" "You will," Helen said matter-of-factly. "You will make so many mistakes." You will say the wrong thing, forget important events, have moments where you lose your patience. And Lily will make mistakes too. She will test boundaries, push back, have moments where she is angry or hurt or confused. That is what families do, but you work through it together. Zara thought about this. I want to honor Sarah's memory. I want Lily to know that I am not trying to erase her mother. Sarah would have liked you, Helen said softly. I really believe that. She would have wanted Will to find someone who made him happy, who was good to Lily. She would have wanted them both to have full lives, not to stop living because she could not be there. You are not erasing her memory. You are adding to their story. They hugged, and Zara felt another piece of anxiety ease. She was not replacing anyone. She was just joining something beautiful that was already in progress. The wedding day dawned clear and bright, the kind of perfect weather that felt like a blessing. Zara got ready with her mother and best friend from business school who had flown in for the occasion. She put on the dress that Lily had approved, a simple ivory gown that made her feel beautiful without being overdone. Helen brought Lily over, and the little girl gasped when she saw Zara. You look like a real princess, Lily breathed. You look like a real princess, Zara countered, and it was true. Lily wore a purple dress that matched her personality perfectly, and she had a small crown of flowers in her carefully styled hair. They arrived at the garden venue to find it transformed with simple decorations, white chairs arranged in rows, an arch covered in flowers where Zara and Will would say their vows. Guests were mingling, the small group of people who mattered most to them. Zara saw her parents talking with Helen, saw Will's employees and their families, saw colleagues from her company who had become real friends over the past year. Then the music started, and Lily walked down the aisle with intense concentration, dropping flower petals exactly as she had practiced. She took her place at the front, giving Zara a big thumbs up that made everyone laugh. Zara walked down the aisle on her own, having decided she did not need to be given away. She was entering this marriage as herself, whole and capable, and choosing this life with open eyes. But when she saw Will standing at the front, looking at her like she was everything, she felt her eyes fill with tears. He was wearing a suit, probably the only suit he owned, and he looked nervous and happy and so handsome that Zara's heart clenched. She reached him and took his offered hands, and the officiant began the ceremony. They had written their own vows. Will went first, his voice steady despite the emotion clear on his face. Zara, a year ago I was stuck in a comfortable routine, going through the motions, taking care of Lily and working hard but not really living. You changed everything. You walked into my life with a flat tire and an open heart, and you made me believe in possibility again. You made me believe I deserved happiness. You have shown Lily and me what it means to be part of a partnership, what it means to support and challenge and love each other completely. I promise to always put our family first. I promise to communicate honestly, to work through problems instead of running from them. I promise to support your dreams even as we build new dreams together. I promise to love you, today and every day, for the rest of our lives. Then it was Zara's turn, and she took a shaky breath before beginning. Will, you gave me something I did not even know I needed. You gave me a reason to leave work at 5, to answer texts in the middle of meetings, to put people before profit. You showed me that success is not measured in quarterly reports, but in moments of connection, in laughter over dinner, in quiet conversations after a long day. You and Lily have taught me what it means to be part of a family, and I am so grateful for every moment. I promise to always respect the life you built before I came along, to honor Sarah's memory and her place in your hearts. I promise to be the best stepmother I can be to Lily, to love her and guide her and make sure she always knows she is cherished. I promise to be your partner in every sense, in business and in life, in good times and in struggles. I promise to love you today and every day for the rest of our lives. They exchanged rings, simple matching bands that felt right. The officiant pronounced them married, and Will kissed Zara like they were the only two people in the world. Lily cheered, and then everyone was cheering, and Zara and Will walked back down the aisle as husband and wife with Lily between them, holding both their hands. The reception was held in a tent nearby, with food and music and toasts that made everyone laugh and cry. Lily gave a speech that mostly consisted of saying how happy she was that Zara was officially her mom now, and there was not a dry eye in the tent. Zara's father gave a speech about watching his daughter build a career and being proud, but seeing her build a family and being even prouder. Will's mother spoke about second chances and Sarah's memory and how love was not finite, that there was always room for more. Zara and Will had their first dance to a song they had carefully chosen, swaying together as the sun set behind them. Then Will danced with Lily, spinning her around while she giggled. Then Zara danced with Lily, the little girl's feet on top of hers, and felt the rightness of this new family configuration settle into her soul. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Will found Zara standing at the edge of the tent, looking out at the garden lit with fairy lights. "Happy?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "So happy," Zara said, leaning back into his embrace. "I did not know life could feel like this." "Like what?" "Full," she said simply. "Complete, like all the pieces finally fit together." They stood there for a moment, just holding each other, before Lily ran up and inserted herself between them, demanding attention. They laughed and scooped her up, and Zara thought about the flat tire that had brought them together, the chance encounter that had changed everything. They had decided not to take a honeymoon right away, wanting to let Lily adjust to the change first. Instead, they spent the weekend after the wedding at the mountain cabin, just the three of them, a repeat of their earlier trip but infinitely sweeter now. They hiked and cooked s'mores and played games, and Lily called Zara Mom for the first time without self-consciousness. Zara cried when it happened, and Lily looked worried until Zara explained these were happy tears. Will held them both, and Zara felt the final piece click into place. She was someone's wife. She was someone's mother, stepmother, but the distinction felt less important than the reality. She was loved, she belonged, she was home. When they returned from the cabin, they started seriously house hunting. They wanted something bigger, with a yard for Lily to play in and space for Will's growing business to have a home office. They looked at dozens of houses over several weeks, Lily weighing in with strong opinions about which rooms would be hers. Finally, they found it. A 3-bedroom house in a good neighborhood, with a backyard and a garage that could serve as workshop space. It was a bit more than they had initially budgeted, but Zara's company had just closed a major deal, and the bonus made it feasible. They made an offer, it was accepted, and suddenly they were homeowners together. Moving day was chaotic and wonderful. Helen came to help, along with Will's employees and several of Zara's friends from work. They carried boxes and assembled furniture and argued good-naturedly about where things should go. Lily ran through the empty rooms, her voice echoing, claiming spaces and making plans. That first night in their new house, they ordered pizza and ate sitting on the floor because their kitchen table was buried under boxes. Lily fell asleep in her new room, exhausted from the excitement. Will and Zara stood in the doorway of their bedroom, looking at the bed they had just set up, the boxes of combined belongings waiting to be unpacked. "This is really ours," Will said wonderingly. "Our house, our home, our life," Zara agreed. "Everything we have built together." They unpacked slowly over the next few weeks, creating a space that reflected all of them. Pictures of Sarah went up in the hallway alongside wedding photos. Lily's artwork covered the refrigerator. Will's tools had a dedicated space in the garage. Zara's books filled the shelves in the living room. It was a blend of their lives, a physical representation of their blended family. 6 months after the wedding, Will's business had grown so much that he needed to move out of the small workshop he had been renting and into a proper commercial space. It was a huge step, scary and exciting in equal measure. Zara helped him negotiate the lease, and on the day he signed the papers, they celebrated with champagne and fancy cupcakes that Lily helped pick out. 8 months after the wedding, Zara was offered an opportunity to acquire a smaller competing company, a move that would significantly expand her own business. She almost said yes automatically, the way she would have a year ago. But instead, she took the proposal home and discussed it with Will. They talked through the implications, what it would mean for her time, for their family schedule, for the balance they had worked hard to create. "I think you should do it," Will said after they had talked through all the pros and cons. "But only if you can structure it so that you are not back to working 80-hour weeks, only if you can maintain the boundaries you have set." "I can," Zara said. "I have learned how, and I have a reason to come home now." She accepted the acquisition, but she did it on her terms. She hired additional staff to manage the increased workload. She set firm boundaries about her schedule. She continued to be home for family dinners and Lily's school events. She had learned that success did not require sacrifice of everything else, that she could have both career and family if she was intentional about it. A year and a half after the wedding, Lily came to them with a request. She was in 3rd grade now, more confident and settled than she had been when Zara first met her. She sat them down at the kitchen table one evening with the serious expression that meant she had something important to say. "I want to know if it is okay if I call you Mom all the time now," she said to Zara. "Not just sometimes. I have been thinking about it a lot, and you do all the mom things. You pack my lunch and help with homework and come to my school plays. You are my mom. But I also want you to know that I still love my first mom. I will always love her. Is it okay to have 2 moms?" Zara felt tears well up immediately. She reached across the table and took Lily's hands. "It is more than okay. It is beautiful. You can absolutely call me Mom, and I would be honored. And of course you still love your first mom. That love does not go away, and I would never want it to. You have a big heart with room for both of us." Lily smiled, relieved and happy. "Good, because I already told my teacher you were my mom and I did not want to have lied." They all laughed, and that night when Zara tucked Lily into bed, Lily whispered, "Good night." Mom and Zara's heart felt so full she thought it might burst. 2 years after the wedding, they started talking about expanding their family. It began as a casual conversation, a what if that slowly became more serious. Will wanted more children and always had. Zara, who had never been sure before, found herself wanting it too, wanting to experience pregnancy and infancy with Will, wanting to give Lily a sibling. They talked to Lily about it first, making sure she was comfortable with the idea. She was immediately excited, already planning all the things she would teach a baby sibling. They started trying, and after a few months, Zara found herself staring at a positive pregnancy test with shaking hands. She told Will that night after Lily was asleep, just handed him the test without words. He stared at it for a long moment before whooping so loudly that Lily called from her room asking what was happening. They told her together, and she danced around the living room with joy before demanding to know if it would be a boy or a girl, and could she help pick out the name. The pregnancy was not easy. Zara had terrible morning sickness in the first trimester, and the fatigue was overwhelming. But Will took care of her, bringing her crackers and ginger ale, taking over more of the household duties, making sure she rested. Lily tried to help too, bringing her toys to cheer Zara up and patting her stomach to talk to the baby. Work became more challenging as Zara's pregnancy progressed. She had to stop traveling for meetings. She started working from home more often. But she had built a strong team, and they stepped up, handling things that she would have insisted on doing herself in the past. She learned to trust, to delegate, to accept that being a good CEO did not mean doing everything personally. Will was attentive in a way that made Zara fall in love with him all over again. He read books about pregnancy and childbirth. He went to every doctor's appointment. He rubbed her feet when they swelled and listened to her hormonal emotional outbursts with patience. When they found out they were having a boy, he cried with happiness, already imagining teaching his son woodworking and baseball. Lily was involved in everything, from painting the nursery to organizing baby clothes. She took her role as big sister seriously, already protective of her unborn sibling. She talked to Zara's stomach every day, telling the baby about her day at school, about the books she was reading, about how much fun they were going to have together. Zara went into labor on a Tuesday evening, 3 days before her due date. Will was calm and efficient, getting her to the hospital while Helen came to stay with Lily. The labor was long and difficult, and there were moments when Zara was sure she could not do it, that it was too much. But Will stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand, encouraging her, reminding her how strong she was. Their son was born in the early hours of Wednesday morning, a healthy baby boy with a powerful set of lungs. They named him James, after Will's father, with the middle name of Michael, after Zara's grandfather. Will held him with the careful confidence of someone who had done this before, and Zara watched her husband with their newborn and felt love so intense it was almost painful. When they brought James home, Lily was waiting with Helen, practically vibrating with excitement. She held her baby brother with careful supervision, looking at him with awe and immediate devotion. "He is so small," she whispered. "I will protect him forever." The newborn phase was exhausting. Zara was up multiple times a night feeding James. Will took paternity leave from his business, something he had not been able to do when Lily was born because Sarah had been so sick. They existed in a haze of diapers and spit up and precious moments of infant sweetness. Lily adjusted well, with only a few moments of jealousy when the baby got too much attention. Zara and Will made sure to carve out special time just for her, to remind her that she was still important, still loved. Helen came over often to help, and Zara's mother visited for 2 weeks, cooking meals and doing laundry and giving Zara time to recover. Zara took a 3-month maternity leave, something she had never imagined doing. She had always assumed she would be back at work within weeks, unable to step away. But holding James, watching him grow and change daily, she could not imagine being anywhere else. She worked from home occasionally, attending video meetings and reviewing documents, but her focus was on her family. When she did return to work, it was part-time at first, gradually increasing her hours as James got older and the breastfeeding schedule became more manageable. She had hired an excellent nanny, someone who came with stellar references and who clicked immediately with James. Will adjusted his schedule so that he was home more, using his employees to handle jobs while he managed the business side of things. They figured it out, the way families do. They balanced work and childcare and Lily's school schedule and their marriage. They had hard days where everyone was crying and nothing worked right. They had beautiful days where everything clicked into place and life felt perfect. Mostly, they had normal days, the steady rhythm of life with young children, and Zara found she loved those normal days most of all. James was 6 months old when Zara's company made the Forbes list of fastest-growing tech companies. It was a huge achievement, something that would have once been the highlight of her career. She did feel proud, did celebrate with her team, did do the interview with Forbes that accompanied the listing. But when she came home that night to find Will making dinner with James in a carrier on his chest and Lily setting the table while talking about her day at school, she realized that this right here, was her real success. "Forbes, huh?" Will said, kissing her in greeting. "My wife is famous." "Our company made a list," Zara corrected. "It is a team achievement." "Take the compliment," Will insisted. "You worked hard for this. You are allowed to be proud." "I am proud," Zara said, "but I am more proud of this, of us, of the family we have built." She took James from the carrier and held him close, breathing in his baby scent. Lily came over and hugged her waist, and Will wrapped his arms around all of them. They stood there in their kitchen, a tangle of family, and Zara thought about the journey that had brought her here. From a parking lot in the rain to this moment, this perfect, messy, beautiful moment. "I love our life," she said softly. "Me too," Will agreed. Every single part of it. That weekend, they had a small party to celebrate both the Forbes listing and James' half-birthday. Friends and family gathered in their backyard, kids running around while adults talked and laughed. Helen brought a cake that Lily had helped decorate. Will's employees came with their families. Zara's business partners attended, along with several friends from work who had become genuine friends over the years. Zara stood watching everyone, James asleep in her arms, and felt Will come up beside her. "Remember when you thought you could not have this?" he asked quietly. "When you thought it was career or family, success or love?" "I was wrong about a lot of things back then," Zara admitted. "I thought I had to choose. I thought being successful meant being alone. I thought asking for help was weakness. I thought I did not have time for people." "What changed?" "I got a flat tire," Zara said, smiling up at him. "And someone kind stopped to help. Someone who showed me that life could be different, bigger, more full than I had ever imagined." "Best flat tire ever," Will said, echoing her words from years ago. "Best flat tire ever," Zara agreed. Lily ran up then, her face flushed from playing, asking if she could have more cake. Zara said yes, watching her daughter, her first daughter even if not by biology, run back to the party. She looked at James, asleep and perfect in her arms. She looked at Will, her husband, her partner, her love. She looked at their house full of people who cared about them, at the life they had built together from that chance meeting in a parking lot. It was not the life she had planned 3 years ago. It was better. It was real. It was full of love and chaos and compromise and joy. It was everything she had never known she wanted. Everything she now could not imagine living without. Years later, when people asked Zara about her success, about how she managed to balance being a CEO with being a wife and mother, she would think about that rainy day in a parking lot. She would think about the choice she made to roll down her window, to accept help from a stranger, to open herself to possibility. "I got lucky," she would say. "I met someone who changed my life, and I was smart enough to let him, but it was more than luck." It was choosing love over fear, connection over isolation, life over work. It was learning that success was not singular but multifaceted, that she could be excellent at her career and excellent at her relationships if she was intentional about both. It was recognizing that the man who changed her tire in a parking lot was not a distraction from her real life but the gateway to it. That the struggling single dad with a beautiful daughter and a humble business was not beneath her, but beside her, equal in all the ways that mattered. It was understanding that love, real love, was not about grand gestures or perfect moments, but about showing up every day. About working through conflicts. About supporting each other's dreams. About building something together that was stronger than what either could build alone. On their 5th anniversary, Will took Zara back to that parking lot. They parked near the spot where her tire had gone flat, and they sat in the car together, remembering. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had not gotten that flat tire?" Zara asked. "If we had never met?" "All the time," Will admitted. "I think about how close I came to not stopping, to deciding it was not my business. I think about how different my life would be without you, how different Lily's life would be." "I was so closed off back then," Zara said. "So focused on work that I could not see anything else. I might have gone my whole life that way, never knowing what I was missing." "But you did not," Will pointed out. "You let me help you. You took a chance on dinner. You opened yourself up to us." "Best decision I ever made," Zara said. They got out of the car and Will produced a small gift bag from the trunk. Inside was a framed photo of them from that very first dinner, a selfie they had taken at the restaurant. Zara barely recognized herself in the photo, saw the careful walls she had still had up, the uncertainty in her smile. "I want you to remember where we started," Will said, "so you can appreciate how far we have come." Zara kissed him there in the parking lot where it had all begun, a kiss full of gratitude and love and promise. They had come so far indeed, from strangers to partners to family. From separate lives to a shared future. They drove home to their children, to Lily who was now 12 and in middle school, to James, who was 4 and starting preschool, to the dog they had recently adopted, and the house that was always messy and full of life. They drove home to the beautiful, chaotic, ordinary extraordinariness of the family they had built. And Zara, who had once measured her life in quarterly reports and profit margins, now measured it in morning chaos and bedtime stories, in dance recitals and baseball games, in quiet moments with her husband after the kids were asleep. She measured it in love, in laughter, in the steady accumulation of shared memories and inside jokes and traditions. She had everything she had once thought she wanted: the successful career, the nice house, the financial security. But she also had everything she had not known to want: the partner, the children, the family dinners, the Sunday mornings in pajamas. She had both, had learned that having both was possible if you were willing to work for it, to make hard choices, to keep adjusting the balance. The flat tire had changed more than just her wheel. It had changed her entire trajectory, had introduced her to a kind of love she had not believed existed. It had given her Will, with his capable hands and open heart. It had given her Lily, who called her mom without hesitation now. It had given her James, who looked like his father but had her stubborn determination. It had given her a family, a real family, messy and imperfect and absolutely everything. And when Zara thought about her legacy, about what she would leave behind when her time was done, she realized it was not the company or the Forbes articles or the successful acquisitions. It was this: these people, this love. This family built from a chance encounter and nurtured through years of showing up, of choosing each other, of making it work. It was knowing that somewhere in the future, Lily might tell her own children about how her parents met, about a flat tire and a parking lot and a chance encounter that changed everything. It was knowing that James would grow up seeing a partnership built on mutual respect and support, would understand that love was both grand passion and daily choice. It was knowing that she and Will had built something real, something lasting, something worth every moment of compromise and effort. They had taken a chance on each other, had been brave enough to cross the divide of their different worlds, had worked hard to build a bridge between CEO and carpenter, between wealth and struggle, between her old life and his existing one. And standing in her kitchen on a random Tuesday evening, surrounded by the beautiful chaos of family dinner, Zara caught Will's eye across the room. He smiled at her, that same devastating smile from the parking lot years ago, and she smiled back. No words needed, just the recognition of partners who had built something extraordinary from the most ordinary of beginnings. This was it. This was everything. This was the love story that started with a flat tire and grew into a lifetime. This was home.